You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up. Now, some of those folks, they are irredeemable, but thankfully they are not America.
Hillary Clinton's comments at a Friday night LGBT gala headlined by Barbra Streisand are drawing fire from the usual quarters, including criticism that she violated the cardinal rule in election politics, that you can attack the candidate but not the voters. This morning, Trump took to Twitter, firing off this retort. Wow, Hillary Clinton was so insulting to my supporters, millions of amazing, hardworking people. I think it will cost her at the polls. Clinton's press secretary defended his candidate on Twitter, noting that Clinton recently explained the ties between Trump and the white nationalist alt-right, and adding, quote, obviously not everyone supporting Trump is part of the alt-right, but the alt-right leaders are with Trump. So what does this mean for the campaign? My panel weighs in next.
That other basket of people are people who feel the government has let them down, the economy has let them down, nobody cares about them, nobody worries about what happens to their lives and their futures, and they're just desperate for change. It doesn't really even matter where it comes from. They don't buy everything he says, but he seems to hold out some hope that their lives will be different.
Welcome back to AM Joy. Hillary Clinton is under fire this morning for her comments Friday that half of Trump supporters, approximately, are the racist, sexist, and otherwise hate-filled folk in the alt-right. Well, what she called a basket of deplorables. Joining me now is business and political marketing consultant Tara Dowdell and Republican strategist Sarah ISGUR FLORES. All right, ladies. So this is being taken the way that you would expect, right? And I'll start with you on this, Tara. That this is a terrible gaffe, that you attack the candidate, you don't attack the people, the voters. What do you make of it and so far the way it's being reacted to?
Well, first of all, the way it's being reacted to, as you pointed out, is exactly how we expected it to be reacted to. But here's the irony, the sad irony of this situation is that first and foremost, Hillary Clinton voters have been attacked. Democratic voters have been attacked. Mitt Romney, the 47% comment, was an attack on Democratic voters as being takers, as being people who don't contribute to this economy. Trump has personally attacked African-American voters by saying that, you know, our communities are awful and savage communities, basically Walking Dead, essentially, is what he's portrayed our communities as, which attacks hardworking African-Americans who work very hard, who contribute to this country just like everyone else. So the notion that she's the first person to say something about someone's voters is not true. Second point is that the comments that she's made are based on polling data. People have said, Trump supporters, a plurality said black people are more violent than, they believe black people to be more violent, less educated, stereotypes about Muslims, stereotypes about Mexicans. Trump has made, we all know his comments about Mexicans. So I think she was pointing out, and she did so articulately, this is just an opportunity for them to try to attack her, but she did so articulately. She pointed out that most of the people, the other half of the people, she said, are people who are struggling.
Yeah, and I think, Sarah, you know, we've had, obviously, the candidate that you normally supported has been on the receiving end of some interesting Trump attacks. He's also called his voters uneducated. We just put up this the full screen of a poll released in June from Reuters that showed nearly half of Trump supporters describe African Americans as more violent than whites. The same proportion describe African Americans as more criminal than whites. 40% describe them as more lazy than whites. We've had Robbie Jones on the show numerous times to talk about this nostalgia voter that are much more for Trump than they were for Cruz or the other candidates. What do you make of the comments? And are we now poised to have a really actually important discussion about what is driving the support for Donald Trump?
Well, I think that Hillary Clinton here did make a mistake. The question will be, in 2016, does that mistake matter anymore? We've seen over and over again that mistakes haven't mattered to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in particular. You know, in 2012, when Mitt Romney made the 47% remark, reporters stayed on it for a month or more. I have a feeling that reporters may move on from this comment within a day or two. So in that sense, it may not affect Hillary Clinton at all. I do think, though, that what she's done done, if anything, is to gin up Trump's base, to make them more enthusiastic voters, more likely to go to the polls. So I certainly don't think she helped herself. And I think it's very hard to claim to be president for all Americans when you just said that 25% of Americans you don't want to be president for. You have contempt for.
Well, I don't know that she, well, okay, but I think that the part of the people that she was talking about, if you actually read what she said,
right,
are people that not just Hillary Clinton has contempt for, the alt-right, the people who've been attracted specifically, and that's not all of Donald Trump's supporters, obviously, right, but he does have Steve Bannon, who is has turned Breitbart.com, which was already, you know, attacking African-American leaders, attacking Shirley Sherrod, et cetera, even before he got there.
Right.
But he turned that outfit into a bastion of the alt-right, which are essentially white nationalists.
Right.
White nationalists are openly claiming Trump's campaign. David Duke says these are our people. Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about just that group of people who are on the alt-right, do we still have to treat them as sort of pristine voters that we should respect their decision? Or is it okay to say, you know what, there's something wrong with that?
I think that it is perfectly fine to expose what we have seen and what we can document. We can document the fact, and it has been documented, that they're saying things like, hang that B-I-T-C-H, Trump that B-I-T-C-H. They're wearing and selling T-shirts that say that. So they're being painted with a brush that they gave to Hillary Clinton. They handed her a brush, and she's painting them with that brush. Because these are people who are saying deplorable things, who are saying that they want the right to say the deplorable things. And when I was growing up, we had a saying, if you can dish it, you should be able to take it. Because these are people who say awful things about women, minorities, people of color, and they say they want that right, that's their freedom to be politically incorrect. She makes this one comment, and now they're up in arms.
And you know, Sarah, you know, I was in Cleveland for the Republican National Convention, and I was frankly shocked by some of the T-shirts that people were willing to wear publicly and walk around with them that did have the B word on, the C word on, things about Monica versus Hillary Clinton. I won't even repeat that one. It is incredibly vulgar. And people were actually quite openly selling them on buttons, putting them on their bodies. And you do have reporting from our Katie Tur, our Hallie Jackson, and others who are at those events. One of our reporters was even spat on at the event, where there's a coarsening that's taking place around the Trump campaign. I'm wondering if, in a way, there are some Republican voters who are not associated with that, who are the economic voters, who are middle-class voters, who are et cetera, who are a little disturbed by the association with what's around the Trump campaign, and who could be even more so despite this comment. Sarah.
I do think that there are Trump voters who are uncomfortable Trump voters. That being said, and this is something that I think Democrats have a really hard time with, and that progressive liberals have an extremely hard time with, and the Clinton campaign hasn't been able to handle it. Most Americans do not trust Hillary Clinton. They think she's corrupt. When you have a campaign like Hillary's, which has really struggled to find a consistent message, struggled to find its voice, and has seemed evasive, defensive, not taking questions from reporters until this week, or press conferences, then it's tough when then she starts this new line of tone, of messaging, attacking half of Donald Trump's voters. It doesn't build that trustworthiness because it doesn't sound authentic. It doesn't sound like it's coming from her. It sounds like it was focus grouped and poll tested. And so I don't think she's going to win over any Trump voters, even those who she didn't just put in the basket of deplorables with this comment.
But I actually asked you about Trump voters. That was you're very good at that. That was a pivot, but yeah, I did ask you about Trump voters. I'm just going to end on this because I think that the reality is, Tara, for Democrats, is that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this media narrative, but let's be honest, the way that Hillary Clinton has been covered over the last year has put into the minds of people, it's coming from the New York Times, right? If they're constantly being told she's evasive, she's secretive, there's something corrupt about the Clinton Foundation, there's something corrupt about the emails, no matter what the FBI says,
right,
no matter what anybody says,
right,
she still has been covered that way for a year. That is ingrained. I hear liberals saying exactly what Sarah just said,
right,
and people believe it. You know, there are studies that showing young African-American voters are not as excited because they believe that narrative. Right. So whether or not that narrative is accurate, if you go through and fact-check her versus fact-checking Trump, it's not even close in terms, right, of who's dishonest. If you look at the Clinton Foundation versus, right, the Trump Foundation, not even, but the fact that the people perceive it that way, doesn't that mean that Hillary Clinton is in a box? No matter what the actual facts are, this is how she's covered.
She's been subjected to a double standard like nothing I've ever seen, maybe with the exception of President Obama, who was also subjected to an extreme double standard. But Hillary Clinton has weathered, this has been not just now. She's been subjected to a double standard since she was first lady, since she was in Arkansas. So that is part of why people have a trust issue, is because they've been told over and over again not to trust her.
Yeah.
And I do think that this moment, actually, to me, she was being fairly authentic. She was saying how she felt. She said to the audience, "Am I right?"
Yeah.
I mean, no one right. I'm not certain that I've written speeches for politicians. I've never read them say, "Am I right?" Right?
Well, Donald Trump said, wow, that's really good. As if he's just reading his words for the first time. All right, we're going to have Tara and Sarah back. Tara and Sarah, we're going to have Sarah and Sarah back on in our next hour, because we're going to talk more about that and about the smile stuff. And I think that it's something the Clinton campaign has to deal with, like it or not. They got to figure out how to deal with it. All right, coming up in our next hour,